morning everyone, my name is Michelle. I hope you're doing well. Welcome to another video. Cassie welcomes you to another video. It's Sunday morning, shaping up to be a nice day. It's very strong in the old wind department, and that wind is bringing in some warmer weather and sweeping away the rain that we've had for the last few days. There's my daily weather update for you guys. Let's get into the video. I'm going to talk about the timeline again in the Summer Wells case. Now, if you've followed my channel for a long time, you'll know I've made so many videos about the timeline. I can't even remember how many videos I've made about the timeline. Whether that's the timeline throughout the day, the swimming hole and that bit, them getting home, the time between them getting home and the 911 calls. Early January, I released a long video and it took me days to make. It was a real labour of love. And it was the Summer Wells story. And I put a lot of clips together. You might call it a movie, I guess. So, Tim Mullen beat you to it. But I'll leave a link to that in the cards because if you're newer to the channel, you might not have seen it. That was January, and it's 7 months later. So we've got some new information. We've got a lot of conflicting stories. We've had more people speak out. And there's more channels that are working together to try to piece together the timeline. So I'm going to focus today in a place where I've focused less often. I've talked about it fairly recently, but yeah, I do focus on it less often. And that is the time when they started looking for Summer and the time that the cops arrived. So there's that hour or so, maybe a bit less than an hour, where it's really vague. Candice tells us what she did. Jody Sue tells us what she did. Jody Sue, the then neighbour, who used to live at the time Summer disappeared. She lived at 125 Ben Hill Road, which is on the opposing hill at the beginning of the Ben Hill Hollow. I know I repeat myself so often, but I always get comments saying, Michelle, who's Jody Sue? Michelle, who's Andy? Michelle, who's this person? Who's that person? So that's why I give a little synopsis when I'm talking about these people. But let's start a little bit before that. And I'm going to play you a little montage of clips that I've put together. I think I've played it before, or I've played segments of it before in videos. But I'm going to play it all through. It'll catch you up on what was said about the timeline of Summer's disappearance. And this ends at the dispatch call. And then I'm going to pick it up and we're going to talk about that crucial hour. That hour up to the cops arriving. See you in 6 minutes.
She was last seen outside of her home in the 100 block of Ben Hill Road, which is located in the Beech Creek community of Hawkins County. A family member reported her missing to the Hawkins County Sheriff's Office at approximately 6:30 Tuesday evening.
From what my wife has told me and stuff, her and her mother and Summer were planting flowers by her grandma's trailer, which is about 20 feet from the house there, real close to the house. Summer all of a sudden said, Mom, I want to go in the house. So she said, fine. And her brothers were in there watching YouTube. And so she watched her walk in the door and went in there. And then she went in there and her brother said that she was going to go downstairs and play with her toys. So she went downstairs and then Mom come in and says, where's Summer? Well, she's downstairs playing with her toys. And they hollered for her and there was no answer. So she went down the stairs and she was nowhere to be found. She went out the basement door. The door was unlocked. but she's never left there. She might be on the other side of the house, because I went out there before and called for her, and she come out from behind the house, because she just has to be outside. She's an outside type of person, you know.
We have spoken with her a couple of times. I reported something that she told our crews this morning as well. She said that, she went inside to do something, came back out, checked on Summer a couple minutes later, and next thing you know, she was gone. Both of her parents say that they believe someone abducted her. They have both said that. However, they say that Summer also is never it's not like their child would just walk away.
Me and my mother and her were planting flowers, and we went in after we got done washing our hands, and she got a piece of candy from Grandma, and she wanted to go back over and see her brothers, and I said okay, and I walked her all the way over to the porch, and I watched her walk into the kitchen where the boys were watching TV. And I watched her walk in there, and afterwards, when she was already in there, I walked over and said, "Quiet," and he looked at me and I said, "Watch Sissy, I'll be right back." And that's when I walked back over to my mom's.
Okay.
And I was fixing her brace and stuff like that, and I said, "Well, Mom, I gotta go back over with the kids." And that's when I come back up into the house. And I asked the boys where their sister was, and they said, "She went downstairs, Mom, to play with her toys in the playroom." I said, okay. Went over here like this, so this is where the stairs are.
Okay.
It's actually down under there.
Oh, down into her
Down into
bedroom.
our bedroom, and then hers is on the other side.
Oh, okay, in the basement.
Yeah, in the basement. And I yelled downstairs for her a couple times. I said, Summer. And she didn't. I listened for a minute, I didn't hear nothing. Which was unusual, because usually she always answers me. And so I went down there to check, and she was nowhere in sight. She was just gone. And that's her little swing right there off that tree. She loved to play right there in that yard. That was her favorite spot to be. So whoever took her had to actually come up into the yard and take her. And I don't understand, because, my neighbor heard her scream, but I didn't hear her scream because I was in the house with the boys trying to find her. And I guess when my neighbor heard her scream, I was actually in the house and the TV was going. So I didn't even hear the scream.
So, somewhere between 4:30 and 4:42, the children and I were sitting there being pretty loud, laughing, carrying on. And when I say loud, we're pretty loud. However, the cabin was quiet, TV running, no air, no fans. And this scream happens. This noise I originally tried to dismiss but it was so different and so wrong. I believe on the phone at 6:09, I'm going around the top curve roadway to start the descent down.
She was waiting for Andy to get there. That's what she told me.
And what time was that?
Oh, gosh.
Around the
I'm not even
4:30
sure,
hour?
Benny, right now.
Okay.
Around 4:30, yeah, about 4:30, 5 o'clock.
I thought it was 5:30, but the 911 call says 6:30, 6:26 is when the first call come in. And that could have well be. Sometimes I work till sunset,
Being around 110 Ben Hill Road off of Beach Creek should be the first residence on your right. Reference to a missing 4-year-old. The parents have called in, advised that the mother had went for a walk, came home. Now they can't find her. They've been yelling for her. She's been gone for about 10 minutes now.
What we glean from that is discrepancies. Each person who's given an account of what they did when up to that dispatch call, which was at 6:32, is conflicting. You know, Candice said she was looking for Summer when the scream happened between 4:30 and 4:42. Well, if she was looking for Summer at 4:30, why did she wait 2 hours to call 911? I've said many times in videos that I think she's just latched onto what Jodie Sue said about the scream. She doesn't know. She's no idea what she was doing at 4:30. She told us she doesn't keep track of time when she's having fun. And I think she's just latched on to what other people have told her, namely what Jodie Sue has told her. I've always believed Jodie Sue and that she heard something. I've never been that convinced that it was Summer screaming, but it's an indicator that something was happening. However, there's now grave doubt as to whether the scream happened at all. Why would she not mention it in the text messages that she was making throughout the day to Andy? She said she heard a noise at 2:14. There was a gap in her texting, and Andy texted her back and said, "Too long, what's going on?" or "Are you okay?" or something like that. I mean, how concerned was he? You know, the day before, Jackie Dobbs had been there. So supposedly, Jodie Sue was on red alert because of Jackie Dobbs being there. You know, they chased him away and then they went looking for him. So it might be understandable she's on high alert. However, she wasn't on that much of alert because she doesn't tell us what time Candice got home. Now, if we're taking that very final photo and separate video of Summer taken by Grandma at 3:09, according to Candice, and again, the timing of this is called into question because we don't have access to the metadata. But if that's true, if what Candice told the channel Unmasked is true, they got home around 3:20 at the latest. So there's 3 hours from 3:20. Don says that he made the 911 call at 6:26. There's talk that Candice, or at least someone on the hill, made a 911 call at 6:23. We know there was 2 911 calls. What we don't know from law enforcement, we don't know when they were, and we don't know the content of them. Why are they being kept behind? Why they've not been released? It's not unusual that a 911 call isn't released, especially when it's, you know, it could be evidence. I think they're holding that because they know it's potential evidence. Let's start there, but let's just back up about 20 minutes. Jodie Sue says that she knows she started making the descent down the driveway at 6:09 to go and wait down at the bottom of Ben Hill Road for Andy to come home and pick her up. She was hearing them shouting for Summer at 6:09. By the time she got down the driveway, how long would that take her? 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 3 minutes? I don't know. Let's just say 6:15, right? That she's down on the bottom of Ben Hill Road there. Candice tells Chris McDonough that she'd made the 911 call when she was on the hill. She'd thrown her phone down and called 911 on Grandma's phone because she has cell service. She has AT&T, which is the cell provider there that works.
And I wasn't just going to stand there and wait for them to send people out.
Right.
I jumped in my mom's truck and I went down the driveway as fast as I could. I went everywhere I could possibly think, every road which way. I didn't see no cars. I didn't see nobody at all. And I was like flipping out. I was a hot mess, so you call it.
Okay.
Right, if Candice had been on the top of the hill, made the call, then jumped in Grandma's truck and went this way and that way all around the hollers like she told Chris McDonough, she had to have been doing that after 6:23. So Jodie Sue seeing her closer to 6:09, 6:12, 6:15, you've got this discrepancy here. So Jodie Sue, in discussion with Tiffany Marie, has made that comparison between what she thinks she knows and what Candice has said. And she said she doesn't know when Candice called 911 because she definitely saw her earlier.
Mary says, wait, I'm confused. She said she heard Donnie telling Candace on the phone, you're telling me that someone took my baby, then 10-15 minutes later, Donnie arrives, question mark. This is what I'm trying to put together too, Jody. So if we just put our heads together for just a moment, I want to go back.
That's Dawn's stepsister asking that question. See?
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's Mary Hartman. That's dinner and drinks. That's her.
Oh.
That's whose comment that is there. So
Yeah.
You get 20 minutes after that point to get there.
20 minutes after, about like in your
At that point, yeah, like I mean, it was 6:30ish that they all had to collide at that point at the end of Ben Hill. At the same time, it was cops, Andy, Dawn. I mean, it had to be around 6:30ish mark.
Jody Sue says that everybody started to arrive around 6:30, and she was absolutely adamant about it. I think she has to be wrong, at least some minutes out, right? This is Tennessee time, guys. Nobody has a good concept of time. The only reason why Jody Sue says she knows when the scream was is that she can put it between 10 and 20 minutes before this 4:52 text. Yet she doesn't mention the noise to Andy. Doesn't mention the scream to Andy. She heard a noise at 2:14, but she didn't hear Candice getting home, although she saw a red flash. She heard a car door slamming. And then in discussion with someone in my Facebook group, when Jody Sue was a member, she's no longer a member, she swore down that this person who was trying to piece together the location of these noises was wrong. Even though she absolutely said she heard the car door slam in a neighbour's driveway. But I digress. Maybe we'll do a video about that and deep dive into that at another time, because it's weird. Anyway, she says, Jody Sue that is, says that people started to arrive around 6:30. They can't have done. She says she knows Andy must have arrived around 6:30, because if he was setting off at 6:09, she knows how long it takes him to get home from work, which is 20-25 minutes. However, Andy said he was stopping to get a drink. Now, we don't know where he stopped to get a drink. Was this place busy, or I don't know, did he have to take a detour? But let's say that adds 5 minutes, even 10 minutes onto his journey. Well, that's going to take him then about half an hour, isn't it? And we don't know he set off exactly at 6:09, do we? He might have said he was on his way while he was still at work. He was just leaving. So then he had to kind of get in his vehicle. You know, when you try to dissect your day minute by minute, it's hard, isn't it? You know, if I had to dissect any day, even a day when something major happened, I'd probably be this far out. I would. I'd be like, I don't know. Because I work off Tennessee time, even though I'm nearly 4,000 miles away. I think Andy's more likely to have got there 20 to 7, quarter to 7. And then Don turns up. Okay, so where's Don? Don's in Jonesboro, which is about 35, 37 minutes away. What does Don say? He says he thought the call was at 5:30, that Candice rang him.
I thought it was 5:30, but the 911 call says 6:30, 6:26 is when the first call come in. And that could have well be. Sometimes I work till sunset, you know.
Maybe this is an understandable misunderstanding, because Candice did ring Don at 5:30, and that's why he's got 5:30 in his head. We know that Candice left the hill twice. So did she leave the hill around 5:30 to go looking for Summer? And that's when she went round the hollers. The cops told her that she left the hill twice because there's surveillance cameras on Ben Hill Road. Somebody further down Ben Hill Road, according to Fred Hill, has a camera. I've heard that Blue Roof Don had a camera on the corner there. These are just things we've heard, but, you know, what else do we have, to be honest? Now, Fred Hill said he saw Candice walking on his driveway about 4:30.
Candace was.
So she did drive up the hall, or did she
She
walk?
walked.
She walked.
She was walking from here. They said she walked off the driveway and walked straight down the hall.
Okay.
I reported 911 call.
But that's before she even called 911. She walked down here. You don't remember what time that was?
It was after 3. I think it was probably about 4:30 when it goes up.
Wow. She didn't call.
Because we're held cars. If I wasn't there before 4 o'clock, they wouldn't take them. And that was about 3:30 when I got loaded. That's when Andy come in around that time. I was loading it. Then we left and just went on to the store. It's about 4:30. Because
So you think Summer went missing around 4:30 was the time that she came over?
it's some between.
Because she didn't call till
I
6:30.
left here at like 4:30, and then when I come back in, they done had the holler shut down. And I had to take them. I mean, they let me in. They had to move everything to let me in.
If that happened, you must be off on the timing. Or someone's lying, you know, because apparently Candice was in the house looking for Summer at 4:30. But again, I don't think she knows where she was at 4:30. I think she's just hanging on to what Jodie Sue said there. So perhaps it was 5:30 the first time Candice left to go and look for Summer. So let's say Don said, well, go and look for her. So she did. And that's when she went round the hollers. And she still couldn't find her. So they went back. She went back to the house. And that's when they started looking and shouting for Summer. And she sent the boys down to the creek. Right, and that was what Jodie Sue heard. Jodie Sue says she saw Candice coming down the driveway. Candice says that's after the 911 call, but it can't be. It can't be. She must have called 911 after she saw Jodie Sue. So I think Candice is confused about what order she did things in. Or Jodie Sue's lying. And Jodie Sue was down the bottom of the driveway a lot later. Jodie Sue swears down, you know, this 6:30 timing that everyone arrived, and she was looking for Summer before that. You know, she was in the creek and she saw the boys. Now, we don't know exactly what time she saw the boys near the creek. It's pretty confusing. But I think Candice rang Don back, let's say about 6:15. And that's when she saw Jodie Sue. And Don then set off and said, call 911. Now, Candice had her mother's phone, which has cell service. So I think this is where people are misunderstanding, or maybe I'm misunderstanding. Let me know in the comments. But if she had Grandma's phone, she saw Jodie Sue, she's talking to Don when she saw Jodie Sue. Jodie Sue heard Don, you know, what do you mean you've lost my little girl, or whatever. It's confusing when Jodie Sue actually went in the creek, and yeah, that's a story for another day. But then she said, Candice that is, that she went out. Now Jodie Sue says that she was talking to the neighbours, you know, going asking the neighbours, and neighbours were starting to help with the search. That makes sense. I think Candice has lied because she didn't want to admit to anyone that she left the hill twice and that Summer was gone a lot longer than what they told 911. I think that's one of the problems. That's where some of the confusion has come from. That Candice rang Don at 5:30, as he thought, and then she went looking, and that's when she went round the hollers and to the church and stuff. And then she came back. They started to shout. She rang Don again, let's say 6:15-ish, And then Dawn told her to ring 911. And she wasn't on the hill when she rang 911. She was out on the road somewhere. That makes more sense. Candice lied because she didn't want to admit how long Summer had been missing. That's some knowledge they've got that they're holding back. But Dawn would have known that. Dawn would have known as well that she'd been missing longer if she'd rang him at 5:30. So if Dawn set off like 6:15 and made the call while he was on the road, he said he got home in like double quick time. He said he got home in 30 minutes, then he said 25 minutes. So 25 minutes would put him in at 20 to 7. He set off at 6:15, and that would be around the same time that Andy was arriving. Now, Dawn originally said that he arrived before all the cops, and then he changed it and said, no, I think there was 1 or 2 cop cars there. Controversially, he didn't go to the house. Now, if the dispatch call was talking to the cops at 6:32 and was giving them instructions, and it takes like 30 minutes to get from Rogersville, but if there was patrol cars just closer, not necessarily on Beach Creek, but closer, they would have got there sooner. So maybe there was a car that got there early, like around the same time that Dawn and Andy turned up, 22, quarter to 7. Maybe, it's possible. You know, I just hope one day that they release police body cam. And, you know, we might be very, very surprised when we get the actual timings eventually. You know, whenever this case concludes, we might all be wrong. And they're holding back 911 calls, they're holding back information about the timeline. You know, they've told us they don't want to talk about the timeline. They've said that consistently because that's all crucial. You know, if they're building a case against Candice or anybody else in the area, then that timeline, it's crucial to protect that for the integrity of the investigation. So we might all be wrong. We can only piece together the things that people have said. And they're either lying or they're bad with time. Or it's a combination of both. That's just my 2 penneth on this topic again. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I've been Michelle, hope you're well, see you in the next video. Don't forget, for those of you interested, Crime Story Sunday over on Michelle Walks. It's a really good one tonight. Don't miss it, but if you do, you can always catch it on the replay. 8 PM UK time, which is 3 PM Eastern or noon Pacific. See some of you there. Goodbye from Miss Tillington and Miss Cassie Springer. What can you smell? Bye, guys.